Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Shelby, and here is her story. I'm not sure you'll want to post this, but thinking about it is cathartic. I only recently figured out my ex-mother-in-law was a narcissist by hearing the stories on your channel. When I was dating my now ex-NARC boyfriend, I definitely noticed similar behaviors. I thought it was pretty strange, but I also got a giggle thinking they shared some common gene that caused them to behave this way. Her being pure Germanic, haha, white racist, and my boyfriend a Southern black man. I truly hadn't met people that acted like this. Yeah, it's not a gene. It's not a gene. I mean, believe it or not, cultural Germans, and they're just as tribal as anyone else. And your Southern, if you're dating a Southern black man, I would ask, was he raised by a single mother, or do you have a father around? So there's a lot of pattern. It's not necessarily a gene, but it's obviously, I think it's nurture versus nature there. I'm writing this after hearing your recent explanation regarding their rude gift giving. Apparently others have figured out there can be some sport in messing with the NARC. Even though she could make my life a misery, we did mess with her for fun sometimes, for some feeling like we were getting our own back. We lived in California, and Ginny, or Virginia, lived in New York. I smile every time I hear you mention Ginny. My husband was definitely the golden child, so that protected me a bit. At first, because she had to face his wrath if she messed with me. She fancied herself as a New York high society, while we were very typical middle class. Our wedding was only the second time I had met her. I was only 20. That should have been a red flag. If you're marrying this guy and you only met his mother once, that should tell you something. That should have told you a lot. I was only 21 and truly couldn't understand why my parents, family, and friends seemed so taken aback by her. I found out later she had really gone after my grandmother. Interesting, because my grandmother was the one in a Chanel suit, and she had some society chops of her own, having held highly placed political positions. But all my classy grandmother had to say about Ginny was, she's a different kind of cat. Anyway, I thought stories of messing with them lighten things up. It helps to see humor where you can. The earliest story I know, and pretty funny considering their ages, was one in the early 60s involving my husband's older brother, him being whatever is the opposite of the golden, and his girlfriend. He would have been the black sheep scapegoat. That's not really good. You're married to, I'm not saying not really good, but I'm a little concerned that you have this history of narcissism and married, well, you said it's your ex-husband, right? So I'm sure he had his own narcissism issues as well. And now longtime wife. They were 16 and really sick of her eavesdropping on all of their phone calls, which she had denied many times in front of others that she had to look good in front of. Frank, the brother, had purposely, teasingly accused her of it in front of them. He had her so figured out he actually knew to set her up this way at only 16. So on a phone call with his girlfriend, Pat, he asked Pat in a very scary voice how her doctor appointment had gone. Did her mom believe her? Did her mom believe her lie where she said she went? Pat said yes, she was pretty sure her mom believed her. Then burst into tears. Says it was so embarrassing at the doctor's and the test takes weeks to get the results. And starts wailing, what are we going to do if it's positive? Frank keeps reassuring her. They end the call and then never speak of it again. Now Ginny was stuck because she can't admit to having heard this, but has to live in agony a few weeks, wondering if her perfect classy family will have their reputations ruined. Well, if the brother was the black sheep, look, rules don't, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because Rules don't apply to the NARS. It doesn't matter if she was eavesdropping or not. That wouldn't have stopped my mother. That's for goddamn sure. It wouldn't matter what she said she did or didn't do. Because the ultimate thing would have been, I'm the mother, I could do whatever I want anyway. I mean, it doesn't sound like this dynamic. It doesn't sound like you got your ex-husband's family dynamic down right. Because it doesn't sound like... I understand what he was trying to do. But that's not how a narcissist would react like that. Frank and Pat said her resulting general rages at anything were well worth it just to make her miserable. I love that story. It actually helped me deal with her with some perspective. I think they made that story up. I think they made that story up as a way for you to be able to deal with your mother, your ex-mother-in-law. That's not a real story. I'm sorry, that's not a real story. That's not a real, because that's not how a narcissist would react. A narcissist would just say, like, I heard you, I was walking by. They'd make up an excuse. Secondly, at 16 years old in the 60s, if your son got some, that's just bad. Like, I honestly think there's more to deal with, more going on with your ex-husband, the golden child. I think that's a story your golden child husband made up with his brother. I can't see that. Years later, 1984, my first was having her baptism. For Catholics, this is usually as a young infant. She was to wear a christening gown that had been worn by every baby on my dad's side of the family going back over 100 years. It was fine, nothing too fancy, but sheer. So I wanted to make a slip for underneath it. While at the fabric store, I made the mistake of looking at christening gowns in the Vogue pattern book. This was only a week before the big event, so I knew, facing a huge job, deciding to make the truly stunning gown. I figured the original heirloom could now be the slip. I look back now and laugh at myself, but I was weird. I was a weird first-time mother who did things like iron the baby clothes. I also thought Ginny could help finish it as she was arriving a few days before the Saturday christening service. Well, there's your mistake. Don't assume they'll help you with anything, even if it always worked to appeal. It always worked to appeal to her vanity. Ginny was a truly beautiful seamstress and preened at being needed this way. I called her as soon as I got home, explained, and she seemed excited at the project. I should have known. The phone calls were always great, even enjoyable. The visits never. I did have most of it done by the time she got there, but the whole thing had involved a lot of intricate handwork piecing strips of Belgian lace together. Of course, those few days she manipulated me into having no chance to work on the gown, until it's the evening before. I called 2 girlfriends to come help me. Ginny finally decides she'll help also. Of course, she had spent the previous days complaining how I had typically she has nothing to base that on, put it off until the last minute. You want to know what she's basing that on? I will almost guarantee you this. You know what she's basing that on? Your ex-husband. Because I guarantee you, your ex-husband was nothing more to her than a son husband. And she was she saw you as competition. And he probably went back and he fed all this shit to her. I guarantee you he was feeding this shit to her. And here's the thing with a guy like, because I think from the sound of it, if he's going to the extent of making up stories, and if his brother, there is no way that first story, if he was the scapegoat, she would just let that pass over. There's no way. There's no way. No way. Your ex-husband has been spinning some fucking real lies on you. And he might even be so far as he'll act like he can't stand his mother. And the more he protests that he can't stand his mother, the more he tells her shit. He tells everybody he can't stand his mother, and then tells his mother he can't stand you. I seen this. I could tell you this is exactly what's going on. And when it was throwing you here with these funny stories, okay, he's throwing you crumbs. It's a plastic chew toy for you to occupy. That's where she got it from. I kept explaining it wasn't that. The problem was I had the idea at the last minute. Didn't matter. She kept calling me a procrastinator to anyone who would listen. This lady sewed, so she knew exactly how much work was left. My dad came to fetch her to my parents' house around 11 p.m. She had been banned from actually staying at my house at our house by my husband by this point, and would stay with my parents. I guarantee you he blamed you for that. I guarantee you he blamed you for that. And at the same time making it like it was his decision. But he would I guarantee you, he would tell his mother you didn't want her around. When she left, she knew we were facing hours of work. I was so steamed at the crap I knew she would be saying the next day that my friends and I agreed we'd stick to the story that we were done by 12:30. It actually took us until 4:30. Early the next morning, we all called everybody attending, 40 or 50, I think, to back us up. And by God, the next day that bitch asked everyone. I mean everyone. Because your husband already told her the truth. This was so she can go around and hopefully she couldn't even get her child's christening dress. And because she wanted you, I don't know what happened with the marriage, but I guarantee you your mother wanted it, or his mother wanted it over. And by God, the next day that bitch asked everyone, I mean everyone. But all she heard were things like, yeah, Barbara finally got home around 1, or Donna's mom saying, I waited up, she came in before 1. I wasn't happy how late she was, but Shelby walked her home. My husband, everyone who might know, gave her the same answer. No, he didn't. No, he did not. Publicly, he did. Privately, she knew the truth. And blame you, see, she makes all her friends lie. I'm telling you, that's what happened here. And you might not even realize it till this very second. That's what went on. That's how your mother, why your ex-mother-in-law would make all these accusations on you. Times where she would say things like, how would she even know that? And you wouldn't even think, because your ex-husband's fed it to her. He was playing both sides against the middle. That's what the golden child does. They play both sides against the middle. My husband, everyone who might know, gave her the same answer. He did not. She knew we all had to be lying, every last one of us. How? She knew it. She knew you had to be lying. Not only because of how long it takes. He told her. Of course he did. Of course he did. He's a golden child who allowed his other brother to be scapegoated. It was so funny. We still laugh about it to this day. Even my kids know the story. Oh, how worth it, the small victories. I mean, was it? Is it a victory? Look at this. Yeah, I mean, look at the stories you had to tell for your daughter's own christening. Like, couldn't even enjoy it. That's a victory? She fucked you over. You had to stay up till 4:30 in the morning, the night before the christening, and you think this is a victory? You didn't win anything. Not with your ex-husband stabbing you in the back left and right. Most people admitted they were sad when we divorced, in part because they loved the Ginny visiting stories. Of course they did. It gave your ex-husband the chance to be everybody's fucking hero. yours, your friends, and his mommy's. He was playing everybody against everybody. He was the source of all of this, your ex-husband. He was the source. I know this isn't what you intended for this video, but that's the reality. He was the source of all of it. A funny one was the salad mixing bowl. Every visit she would find our kitchen was missing some exotic cooking tool, and bitch and moan, how on earth could we do without such and such? One particular visit, it was a salad mixing bowl. So off we all trod an hour away to San Francisco to Williams and Sonoma, because only the hoity-toity best would do. She picks out this enormous $60 stainless steel bowl as a gift. Right. We always ended up laying out the cash. So we get the bowl. No place to even store it except to hang it on the wall. My one bright spot the next visit was laying in wait for her to make the salad one night. She asked where the bowl is. I feign confusion for a moment. Then I say, maybe the barn. Jeff uses it to mix concrete. Ha ha ha. Hey, I knew we were good. If the golden child wants to mix concrete in it, not a word would be said. Wait a minute. This is just solidifies about your husband. If he really wanted to get back at his mother, she made you buy a $60 stainless steel salad bowl, and instead of returning it, he turned it into $60 stainless steel bowl to mix concrete in. The joke's on her. You paid for it. You paid for it. You paid $60 for a 50-cent, something that costs 50 cents to mix concrete in, instead of returning it for the cash? The golden child played everybody. Everybody. He's still playing you. If you don't see what your ex-husband was up to here, it was your ex-husband. These aren't funny stories, Shelby. These are lies and deception of the golden child. All of it. All of it. Not that his mother's not a narcissistic cunt. She obviously is. But he's the golden child. And he's playing everybody off of everybody. He turned a fucking stainless steel mixing bowl that you paid for to mix concrete in instead of returning it. That's an expensive joke. He's played everybody against the middle, and he's a good storyteller. That's why. If this has no point and you want to share, that's fine. These memories, a few others, actually make me smile, and I need that right now. Thanks so much, again, for what you are doing. It's the best help I've had. Shelby. I hope this doesn't depress you, Shelby, but I gotta call it when I see it. Your ex-husband was manipulating all of this. All of this. This isn't good. Step back and take another look at your ex-husband and what was actually going on. I 100% question the story about the black sheep. That is not how it goes down with a black sheep and an overbearing narcissistic mother. No way, no how. Rules don't apply to them. So what does she care if whether she eavesdrop or not? And she's 16. In the 60s at 16, and she's just going to walk around crying. They're lying. He's a good storyteller. He played everybody against everybody. The narcissistic golden child plays everybody off of everybody, Shelby. So, thank you for another contribution and story, though. I really do hope this helps. I really do. Please thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it growing, supported, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from you guys. Without you, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic